Christine saw this. She said, "Is this for later?" I said, "What's happening later?" I totally forgot. I didn't even think about it. Oh goodness! It's just a Saturday fit. I just woke up and just had this hand. You said what?
Looking like Trump's America.
That's the America I grew up in.
That's the only American you know.
The America I grew up in. They voted. David Duke.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes. He was almost governor.
Oh, yes, they did.
Almost.
Wow.
Yeah. He almost won. He was very close. That was in the '90s. Way before Trump. So we set the blueprint.
Facts.
We the blueprint. So
Infinitely worse than Trump.
yeah.
Did you see Trump? I think it might be at the same level.
Yeah, but the thing is, David Duke is so open that you know what you're opposing.
This guy is
Much more sleek.
I think David Duke has had more direct hands at the death of people than Trump. Trump is indirect. David Duke is probably killed.
Pretty direct. Cool. Yeah, no, but David Duke is much worse, I'd say.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well,
I think again, indirect policies. Indirectly, Trump has done more damage, but directly, David Duke has probably killed people with his hands.
Sorry, dumb question, but who's David Duke?
I respect the question. So in I believe the year was 1990. His prominence, his relevance on American culture was way before that.
Okay.
But in 1990, he ran for governor of Louisiana. Now, the interesting part about that is that he was simultaneously the grand wizard of the Ku Klux Klan. And just with the policies that were going around, he was coming off of the roaring 80s. The general public said this is a pretty good guy. And so, at that time, I think Birdman and Lil Wayne and them, it was popping out a little bit, Yeah, so that's David Duke.
Okay.
Actually, Master P was the first black person to live in our local country club.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Country Club of Louisiana. Master P was the first black man to live there.
Wow.
Yeah, he had a white man to pretend.
I remember when they actually reported on that. So the Ku Klux Klan.
What about him?
Officially?
Yep.
In the White Nationalist Party.
Mm-hmm. Christian organization.
Yeah, I always think about them as one and the same. But
I don't think so.
are they the same?
I haven't done the research, but I bet not.
Because I know, what was Trump's vice president?
Mike Pence.
Mike Pence was a high ranking or the leader of that at that time of.
That sounds so not real.
That
sounds so not real.
That was something that people talked about a lot. That he had a high.
You're telling me that Mike Pence had a high ranking in the Ku Klux Klan?
No, he said
No, the White Nationalist Party.
In the White Nationalist Party.
Yes, the White Nationalist.
I just feel like we would have heard about that.
I'm feeling like
I don't think you would have made it as far as you did if you was.
I don't know. I believe it's correct, but I could be wrong. But
the most
I want to know if they're the same.
The most beautiful thing about this right here is we're not even going to fact check it.
I would like to know if
Can we use the fact checking in the back?
Yes.
Let's pull that up.
Was Mike Pence a high rank in the White Nationalist Party? What is the White Nationalist Party?
What is
I didn't see that on the ballot. I voted already. I didn't see that.
I've always
know
thought
what?
that they were the same.
Really? This is the easiest voting I've ever seen.
Wordly.
Oh my gosh, they're doing a great job. I'm so serious.
Wow.
Instead of election day being a 1 day, it's like 2 weeks.
Did you see Trump saying that guy, the comedian that's the thing about
Tony?
He's like, I don't even know that guy.
That was hilarious.
Did he introduce him at the rally?
He said, I've never even heard of him. Never heard of him.
Again, Trump didn't just.
You could have got it.
Permission.
Yeah,
You just said that we throw this.
I did.
He loves throwing.
He does love those.
Wow.
I think if Trump wasn't destroying our lives, he'd be so funny.
Oh yeah, for sure.
He'd be
So
one of the best
memeable.
comedians I've seen in my life.
Hey, this is the best meme he ever did. Hold up, look at this meme right here. This is the best one he ever did. That joke was so funny. Oh my god.
But I think Trump started this off as a joke. He wasn't taking himself serious.
That's
the
part.
craziest
He didn't
part
take it that
about it.
serious.
Yeah.
He wasn't taking it serious, and all of a sudden he was like, "Oh crap!
He was like, I'm getting some traction.
I'm getting some traction." Okay.
Some retweets.
But I appreciate the fact that, and by that he said the thing he said about Haitians, and then his man said the thing he said about Puerto Ricans, because I don't know if y'all know. I mean, I'm in the Haitian community because I'm Haitian. A lot of Haitians were going to vote for that man.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
A lot, and he turned around, and a lot of Puerto Ricans were going to vote for him too. and they turned around like, how could you? Like, you hear what you've been saying for the last 10 years.
Here's the issue, though, which is why I'm always amazed at the Republican Party. The Republicans should get the immigrant vote. If they just hate brown people.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, hopefully, so we're recording this before Election Day.
We don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, we don't know what's going to happen, and hopefully this podcast episode ages well.
That's real.
Oh,
That's a compliment. Save us.
the Republicans should alley-oop with immigrants because most things and values and
Immigrants
Yes.
are so conservative.
easily.
They just give me the basic and get out of my business. That is the like
Easily.
ethos. Yeah.
But,
Hardworking.
you know, one of the things that they try to portray is that
Oh, sorry.
immigrants come and become gang members. Do you know how hard it is to be a gang member? in the Islanders' house? You can't be part of the gang. And that's what they call them in the Islanders. Like, you can't do it. Like, it's way harder. You're gonna embarrass your whole family? They are on you if you don't graduate. They're on you if you fail a test. Gang members don't take tests. Their test is shoot.
No, that's real facts because they will send you back to your home country.
So fast.
That happened to my brother, by the way.
Talk about that.
And now he's an amazing, upstanding American citizen. Has his MBA, married
So it works.
with kids.
So it works.
Yes, it does work.
Deportation not crazy, huh?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That is crazy. Yeah, my cousin got sent back to Nigeria so bad. And he came back so responsible.
Because I think what it is that a lot of folks just don't recognize how good they have it in America.
Mm-hmm.
Despite the issues that we have here, you're out here acting up when you have a lot of opportunities. Wait till you go back home.
Come on.
You understand? Wait till you are sent to fetch water in your head. Then that's when your neck is breaking. Oh, you will change. You will change.
Okay, I'm looking for this fact. Do we, Stu, when you get a chance, can you just fact check? Can you just come in here and say it on the mic if you got the fact check for that Mike Pence little piece? You got the answers on it?
So according to the Intercept, it says that.
Is Mike Pence a high rank in the
It's
white
not
nationalist party?
was
he? Yeah, was
So
he?
the first thing says that Donald Trump appointed Steve Bannon,
Yeah.
the chief house. He did appoint him the chief white strategist, who is a part of the white nationalist party.
He's a chief white strategist?
He was appointed the White House chief strategist.
Okay.
Wait!
Yes.
Very good.
That was so different. Sorry, you ain't said chief white strategist. You said White House chief strategist.
That was such
Sir, you the fact checker.
that was such a fearful word.
I said, I missed that.
He was celebrated by the American Nazi Party and the Ku Klux Klan.
Mm-hmm.
As far as Mike Pence, he was a member of the White Nationalist Party, according to the Intercept.
According to the Intercept.
But my thing
people
is,
talked about that often.
High-ranking officer.
it doesn't. I don't see anything about his status in the White National.
Okay, so
If you would, I
It could have
think
been
it would
exaggerated,
easily
but people
fine.
talk about him being
Yeah.
a white nationalist.
Okay, very interesting. All right, so with that started, this was excellent. Y'all wanted to start this podcast?
Yeah.
All right, we good.
Let's do it.
We're already here. Amen. All right, what's good, y'all? Welcome to the pod. This is Sabbath Lunch. If you don't know, now you know. My boy. This is actually a podcast that came out of Sabbath Lunch. So, if you go, I think a little plug for them. If you go to West Orange, New Jersey, Living Faith, they got potluck every week. You know what I mean? So if you're hungry,
That's ministry.
if you're hungry on a Saturday afternoon, you can go over there. So this whole thing,
It's good for food, though.
that's a good point. And if you're hungry for the Lord,
Amen. For the good food.
the best food there is.
Amen.
Jollof rice.
Jello.
Jollof.
Jollof? Oh, don't all the Nigerians correct me. I'm sorry.
You said Jollof.
You just opened
Joe Law.
The way he said Joe Lock, I think he's saying a name. I think he's talking about
I was like,
somebody.
who is Joe?
Joe, Mr. Loft? Mr. Loft. Goodness.
That's the way the commercial says.
The commercial. So we just saying, if you're trying to, at Living Faith, this is where we kind of galvanize around the table and realize we pretty much have these conversations every single week.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we said, you know what happens if we put a little camera and a little microphone and see what happens. So that's what this is. And because this is a see what happens, I'm not here to say that you should listen or not listen, or that it's correct or not correct. This is truly a conversation. And that's what it is. We agree on some things. We don't agree on a lot of things. But we dive in and we just want to see what's going on with it. So today's podcast is on social justice and Adventism, right? Which is interesting. Which is real interesting. We're going to get into it. The first thing we want to ask, and we're going to go around with it. So we're going to be passing these mics around because, we starting off, these mics not free. They're not cheap, you know what I mean? So we going to, if I got to toss a mic like that. So pass the mics. If we can hear them, we're going to find out after in post. What's the definition of social justice? I want to see if we're even on the same page. We're going to start down here. Miss Rashika, what's your definition of social justice?
So to me, I think what really comes up to me is human dignity, and responding to human dignity, in a way that honors the image of God in people.
I love that.
So that's generally what I think about. I think that looks different, right? And I think that's the point of this conversation, right? Like, what does honoring human dignity look like in different situations?
Why do you think people see that differently?
Oh, that's a good question.
I'm gonna say that because what you said just sounded so good.
So good.
I was like,
The best definition.
wrap it up.
Yeah,
You said I said we good, but you're right. People see it so differently. Why do you feel that way?
I think we all have different values, and even though we are sort of like, our main similarity here is that we're Adventists. I think that actually looks a lot different in like the way we practice that, right? And I think in some ways that's okay, right? But I think the difference in values that we have sort of makes what it means to value human dignity play out in different ways for different people, and culture and where you were born and how you were raised and all of these other factors sort of come into play. But I think generally it comes down to values.
Wow, values that operative term.
Yeah.
What is value? Goodness.
Can I make a comment on the reason why maybe people see human dignity as different? And when you ask that question, I tend to just envision that people don't see certain people as human.
There you go. That's what I love.
And that's only because there's no closeness, right? No connectivity. Because if I can connect with someone who lives so far away in any way, shape, or form. I mean, think back to like when people are doing pen pals, right? So, you're writing letters back and forth with somebody who lives miles away.
Indiana.
Right? But because of that connectivity, all of a sudden it humanizes that person. But when you are so far away and there's no connectivity, the person just becomes a stat, right? And it becomes much easier to dehumanize somebody who is just a stat. Right? It becomes a generalization as opposed to an individual that's breathing, that's living, that's,
Can I add one thing to my answer?
Please.
Sort of in answering your second question about why honoring human dignity is difficult. I also think that when we have to sacrifice, our comfort, right, for another person, right? The immigrants are coming to take our job. I want to dignify them.
They're doctors?
They went to school.
You tell me they doctors. Bring them over.
So when we feel threatened, or like when our like way of life and our wealth and like the security of our children become threatened, then we start taking away, I think, and we're less inclined to value the dignity of people. So when I think values for sure, but also when we feel like we are threatened, or we will lose something, or we won't have life as good as we think we deserve it, that adds as well to the challenge.
Very good point.
Can I actually make a comment?
Go ahead.
Um,
Make all the
I
comments.
fully agree with what you just said. And it kind of ties into what I believe social justice is, and like we want an era of everyone saying, "Oh, we want equality," but you want things to be equitable, right? And People are inherently selfish.
Mhm.
That's not how God created us to be, but it's what we've become.
That's what sin's made us.
And because of that, we then hide the dignity of other people.
Yeah.
We take that away from them because
Very
that helps to build us up as individuals.
Mhm.
So I definitely agree with that. And us trying to figure out a way of finding, I guess, a common ground in which we can better all of us together is what I believe social justice is.
You know, I have an image in my head when they say that they're coming to take our jobs and everything from us. And my image is someone knocks on the door and I go answer it. And they're like, you Joel? Yeah, I'm Joel. I'm new Joel. you, where you from? Trinidad. Damn. Yep. So I'm gonna need you to pack up, get everything, and then roll out. What do you do? I do construction. Now I do.
What do you do? Same thing you do.
You do. I do construction. But you know that's the way they kind of make it seem when they're describing it as if some of these people who don't have the paperwork to get these jobs are taking these jobs.
Mhm.
I mean, just that specific thing alone should be logic to somebody. I mean, I don't have my green card or social security number, but I'm going to take your job that you had to give your social security number and the diploma to get.
Go ahead.
So while I agree that I think dignity is a huge part, I struggle with that definition because I think these words are very broad and can evoke different definitions in people's heads. So I think someone's definition of dignity might be different than what we have. I think we can even look in the world today. Some of us can argue that what the world is asking for is dignity. Some of us would say that's not biblical. So then the question is,
What you mean by that?
He's taking it where I was thinking.
okay. What am I thinking about? I'm thinking about two things actually. First, as a church, we do not ordain women.
Say that.
So, for some of us, we argue that the role of a woman is not to be the leadership in the house of God. And for others of us, it's like, as a human being embodied with the power of the Holy Spirit, and God has empowered her to speak His words to the nations. So then, where does that come from?
Well, this is also an organization whose one of the main founding fathers
He's a woman.
Sure, woman.
is a woman.
Father.
I just said it in the way you say it. You know? Shout out to our founding father, Ellen.
But that's what I mean by the question of like dignity is such a broad word, because to some people they'll ask, a woman not being on the pulpit is dignity because her role is in a specific avenue.
Is it though?
To some people it is.
But I hear the point you're making, right? I think that there's a difference between attacking maybe a moral issue and the dignity of a person, and maybe we should start this conversation first by like setting the case of what do we mean by dignity, right? If social justice is about the preservation of human dignity, then what is human dignity? If you want to get a job, I work in the finance industry. If you wanted to get a job in my industry or a role in my office and you're not qualified for it, so to speak, or for whatever reason we don't think you're a good fit for it, is that us attacking your dignity, right? For whatever reasons that may be. So what is dignity? Let's even start from there.
You know, when the word dignity was used, it also crossed my mind that different people have different definitions of dignity. And while I really love your definition of what social justice is, it crossed my mind that if another person were to hear it, based on their definition of dignity, then, you know, everybody's not worthy of being treated a certain way, because dignity can be defined. I mean, dignity can be based upon your decisions, you know? And so based on your decisions, are you worthy of being treated a certain way? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then that can, fall into, if we go off on a tangent just a little bit, just thinking about abortion, right? And the many, many circumstances that can lead a woman to want to have it or think about having it, and some people may look at certain rationales as not being a dignifiable reason, And so, yeah, that's just what crossed my mind when I thought about, the word dignity.
Yeah.
And how other people might define it if they heard your definition. Yeah. But I agree with you 100%.
Mike?
Yeah.
Oh, I got you.
Please.
Like you were able to
She can catch. I'm believing your ability to
You were
catch.
about to shoot football.
You're showing you have it.
I think that's totally a good point. And as you say that, I sort of think I don't think people's decisions should shape their dignity. I think that people have dignity, period. Right? And I think this especially comes up when you talk about folks who are incarcerated, right? It's like, you've done something wrong, you don't deserve life, right? But when I say social justice is about valuing human dignity, it has no bearing on what your actions are, what your opinions are, or at least I don't think it should, right? I totally agree with you, right? That people will base your use your actions to shape how much they think you deserve dignity. But I think people should have dignity simply based on the fact that they're created in the image of the divine. And so your actions should have no bearing on whether or not.
So essentially what you're saying is that there is an innate level of
Correct.
dignity that each human being has and is
Yeah.
born with and
Yeah.
cannot be taken away from them regardless of their decisions.
Yeah. But again, I still think that dignity is to be defined, and I will not be defining it.
Well, no, that was
Sounds
cool.
really hard.
I know, I love that. That was, you're doing a good job. All right.
Thank you.
That was awesome. Because when you said that your definition is actually extremely biblical, it sounds like, right? First thing I thought of was Galatians 3:28. There's neither Jew nor Gentile, neither slave nor free, nor is there male and female, for you are all one in Christ Jesus. Right? It don't say anything about like, unless, but did you, it's like, that is the statement. But I actually think counter to biblical value, an American value is very much like, you deserve
Yeah.
this and you deserve lack of that. I mean, even when we look at the history of our country with like chattel slavery, right? It's like, your grandfather was a this, so you are a this. Well, you know what? I say American in that I'm just saying historically American. I actually think that is much more of a, God bless them, European value. I think like their classism and things like that are very ingrained in those types of societies, where America is like, trying to exit that in a way, but is built on top of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So as we're having this conversation about dignity, I just couldn't help but, because for me, in my mind and my brain,
Definition.
I need something to pinpoint, right? So I had to come back to the Google and type things.
We got ChatGPT now, baby.
Well, you can definitely use ChatGPT, but it says dignity is defined as the state or quality of being worthy of honor or respect. The state or quality of being worthy of honor or respect. The issue is that honor and respect is very subjective, right? So what I would consider as being honored or being respectful is very different from how you would define it. So while I may come in and I'm looking at something black and white, and maybe I'm challenging something, I remember a couple of years ago, I dealt with a friend, and we were having a conversation about the Sabbath, for example. Her family had, been deep Catholics and have been Catholics for generations. Whenever we had a conversation or read any biblical text that pointed to the Sabbath being a seventh day, she would feel deeply attacked, right? So in that case, for example, I obviously respect her. I feel like she deserves honor. But if we were having a conversation about which day the Sabbath is, any conversation that would suggest that the Sabbath is on the seventh day would she would feel like I disregarded her and I don't respect her or her views. And so my question becomes, how do you honor someone who has different different definitions of what you are striving for, right? So social justice, if social justice is the preservation and valuation or valuing of somebody's dignity, and dignity is based on somebody's idea of honor and respect, when there are differences in that definition of honor and respect, how do we then get to, social justice?
Go ahead.
So I kind of focused a little bit more on a different part of your definition when you were reading it. And maybe I heard it wrong, but what I believe it was saying is those who are worthy of honor and respect. So, but then that also means, what do you consider worthy, right? You have to then find value in that. And I feel like you can go back to the Bible. Jesus was different than all who were around him, but he still gave them respect. He didn't start wars. He didn't harm anyone. He didn't murder anyone. He didn't speak ill of anyone. They were still all different from him, but he still gave them that level of respect. So it's the same thing as what you're saying here. Like, with giving someone dignity, treat them how Jesus would treat them. I know that sounds really, do what Jesus would do, but
going by your definition, and I agree with that. Jesus was killed specifically because people didn't think that he was honoring or respecting them. Right? So, which is probably the reason why our society is panning out the way it is panning out. Because they killed Jesus. Right? So, some of the things that I would fight for is just, in terms of social justice, people may think that it's not worth being fought for, or that maybe the perspectives are wrong, right? So although I may be looking at quote unquote stats, like Jesus would quote and say, this is what the Father said. This is how you should be doing it. And folks are like, who are you? How dare you? I've been studying these things, the Torah, for 30 years. I'm a scholar, I'm a scribe, and here's a 30-year-old person telling me, you just got into the ministry 2 days ago. I saw the baptism. Right? It was 2 weeks ago. And now you're telling me that all these studies are wrong, that it's been based on generations. How dare you? Right? So those are some of the challenges about, identifying what social justice is.
Thinking about the first thing that she said about the subject. And, the thing about people with, the thing about bringing up something that the person might feel attacked about is that person hasn't come to terms that it's become a fact in your life. And there's different things that people consider facts in their life. So respecting each other is respecting that you believe that that's a fact in your life. So if the person feels attacked, the person may be making it too much about themselves.
Can you give an example?
Well, my example is his example, him bringing up the Sabbath being the seventh day or in a conversation about it. If the person feels attacked, it's like you're talking to somebody with a different denomination or a different belief system than you. You can't attack their belief system. You have to let them be with their belief system as you're with your belief system. And that's part of respect.
I think Joel had a good point I wanted to talk about. We all don't have the same facts. We say, I think a lot of times, especially when we talk about the political landscape, we assume that somebody looked at an objective thing and said, I believe otherwise, when that's not true. A lot of us are in our own conclaves and communities where the facts that we're basing things off of are different. To be fair, even now, right, some people want to look at us and tell us we are wrong on objective things. People might tell us we're wrong on what the seventh day is because for them, the word says, the literal Bible says this, and we are harping to a different way. I think the bridge that needs to be built is living in the same world. And to be frank, that's nearly impossible sometimes.
I sort of want to answer your question, Manny, about what do we do when there are things where, like with your scenario, you were just sharing your perspective about something that's important, right? Like the Sabbath, at least we think it's important. And today I was at Bible study because I attend Bible study. Do you?
I see. We see.
Do you? So I was at Sabbath school this morning, and we were talking about John 4, and this really struck out to me. I thought it was interesting, so I'm going to read it briefly. So John 4, verse 1 and 2 and 3. Sorry. So therefore, when the Lord knew that the Pharisees had heard that Jesus made and baptized more disciples than John, though Jesus himself did not baptize but his disciples, he left Judea and departed again to Galilee. So the context is, right, that the Pharisees are upset about who gets to baptize, which is like a valid, some might, say that this is related to salvation, whether or not you should get baptized and under what name do you get baptized, etc. And so they're planning to have an argument about baptism, right? And what Jesus did was, Jesus did not stay and engage and argue back and forth. Jesus left and went to Galilee because this is the section where he saw the woman at the well in Samaria, right? So they're here arguing about something that they deem is important, right? In the same way that we deem the Sabbath to be important. And he's like, actually, like this, there's some things that are not worth arguing about. And I think this, sometimes not engaging in a conversation is valuing human dignity. You recognize that she's being overwhelmed or like feeling stressed out about it. Maybe you don't need to talk about it, And that doesn't devalue your perspective, right? And it doesn't say that you agree with theirs, right? Like Jesus didn't make a statement either way. Jesus like, actually, I have to go meet this woman at the well, which is way more important because she's going to spread the gospel to the people in Samaria. So yeah, prioritize, we don't need to be right all the time and point out how right we are.
That's we don't need to be right all the time.
I hear that, but I do think that there's...
You can't help disagreeing with me. I just want to point out that he's disagreed with me two times now. Carry on, please.
Why do you think we got both y'all on here?
I think some topics isn't I walk away and disagree with, right? So a huge history of the civil rights movement in this country is we told somebody black people are human. They said, I don't see it. And we didn't walk away. Exactly opposite. We brought it to your face. We constantly kept bringing it to your face. In fact, we made your life worse until we had a conversation. And I think then, that's why I don't always say, even if somebody is uncomfortable, we don't have to walk away. My question is the truth more important than the comfort at the time?
Can you say that again?
Is the truth more important than their comfort?
Goodness. That's a hard question to answer.
I guess somebody could ask, and this is where subjectivity just becomes this unending deep well, right? Somebody can then ask, which truth? Whose truth are you talking about? Right? Because we can all agree here that Jesus is Lord, but there are people that are like, I don't know about that, right? So I don't know. Subjectivity, I think, is the difficulty here, right? Because going back to the civil rights argument or example you used, yeah, there are people today that don't believe that folks with darker skin hues are equal in genetic makeup as folks with lighter skin hues, and that's that intrinsic belief, right? Despite alternative facts that you may present, right? I'm so mad that's a thing, but
he's so good. He's a great comedian if he wasn't a terrible person sometimes.
So question becomes, how do we bridge the gap, right, when there are multiple varying, quote unquote, facts I think you can find the research anywhere that can sort of like support any position that you want to have.
The crazy part is that people might say that exact same thing about the Bible.
Yeah, 100%.
And that is like,
100%.
so then what do you choose? How do you decide what is truth when any truth
Can be true.
can be true?
Well, I'm just going to tackle that first before I go back to
Go
the
ahead, sure.
thing. No, any truth can't be true. There is one truth that is actually true. It's about the person, are they willing to accept the truth? That's what it honestly is. There is right and wrong, and there is true and false. If not, then why am I getting so many tests in college? But going back to oh gosh,
What was it?
It was so
was
long.
it someone, Ifani said it? Something Ifani said.
I'm trying to.
That bar that you said before, the bar Rashika said?
Oh, now I remember.
Yeah.
So, is it more important to comfort somebody or be right? I believe it depends on the situation a lot of the time, but I won't say a lot of time.
It always depends on the situation.
It always depends on the situation. But one thing you have to keep in your mind is you are called to plant a seed. So if your conversation with this person in fortifying the truth was your seed, can you really let the person walk away without giving your best, reply to their question, without giving your best attempt at giving the person this information correctly? Because at the end of the day, we are called to plant a seed. What's going to happen is either you can plant the seed in them or they can plant a seed in you.
So, in hearing what Joel just said, I agree. I feel like we're all here for a purpose, and that people come in and out of your life for a season and a time and for a purpose, right? I had a friend a couple years ago, and I would speak to him about me being an Adventist and just about our lifestyle, right? He was Muslim, actually, and I saw him about a year ago. We fell off. We were no longer talking. I saw him about a year ago, and he says, just because I'm not a pushy person. If we're talking and then you start to get upset, I'm going to leave you alone. But I'm going to still bring it up in conversation, but if I see that it's going left, I'm going to back off. And I feel like that's also important. Who is that person to you, right? You need to be able to read the room. If you get to a point in which they're now being, if you're confronting them or they feel as though they have to be on the offensive, they're no longer hearing you. So what you're going in for is not happening. But if you slowly bring it up once in a while, your message will come across. And when I saw this person a year ago, they said, I heard you. I'm no longer Muslim. They said, I started to read the Bible. I started to see what you were talking about. And I didn't know I had any impact on this person. But if that is your purpose, if that's what God is leading you to do, I would say go forward, but go forward with intention and with caution, if that makes sense. And respect.
I wanted to say two things. One, I think the example that Jesus led is always kind. To meet where people are, we also have to recognize our audience. Jesus didn't preach the same thing to people. To the Samaritans, to those, literally he tells the disciples, because they asked him, why do you tell them stories? And Jesus said, to you who know, I tell you straightly, but to those, I tell them stories just so they can find out. Secondly, when Jesus talks to the Pharisees, he called them a brood of vipers. That's not walking away. That's direct confrontational, because Jesus recognized, no, this is a different conversation. You all have the biblical knowledge and background to understand this truth here, but you're refusing it. So I'm not going to let you walk away with that. You're going to hear that you're wrong.
Very good point.
Second point I want to say is I don't think everything's truth. I think our definition of truth is too broad, and we need to get better at being more specific. First and foremost, because you saw it on the internet does not make it true. Because you heard it on the news does not make it true. Because you hear your pastor say it does not make it true. A lot of people have the fallacy of appealing to authority. Because an authority in my life said this, it must be true. And that is not the barometer in any way. What the truth comes from is proper study, depending on the field, a scientific consensus on what is brought there, again, or theological consensus as well, and also, depending on the Bible, reading into it, reading the historical context, reading the culture that made it, and reading the verses before, after it, and what the Bible says about that topic altogether. And I think a lot of people just take their culture and think it's true when no, it's just popular.
And do you know what I think is critical for us to arrive at truth? Debate. And debate has to be able to happen without the fear of, or in spite of the fear of offending someone or hurting someone's feeling. Because, there's no way I can learn new information without talking to somebody next to me who is of the opposing view. And there's a good chance that we're both actually on the extremes and that the real fact is actually somewhere in the middle, right? If you're able to have debates and conversations, I think a lot of the problems we're talking about will be solved. So in an environment where we're talking about social justice, I mean, look, within our church, for example, the divide is crazy about where social justice should meet. But everyone hides from it. Nobody's having a conversation about it. So how do you actually, in terms of building connectivity and connection, how does somebody understand what my life experience is like, right? If, let's just take the example of, police and the Black community, right? A white Adventist has not lived the experience of a Black man, right? Whenever a cop pulls me over, before I put the car in park, I roll all 4 windows down, and both of my hands are outside the door. It's not to say that, that cop is biased or something, but I'm just trying to make sure I walk away, right? I'm not going to take any chances. But that's my reality, right? And there's a lot of, I don't know any other white man that would do the same thing. But even if I'm wrong in doing those things, even if there was a situation where the reality is the fact that the probability that the cop would do anything to harm me is low or non-existent, the fact is that somehow I've come to believe that this is the case. So shouldn't someone who doesn't even understand what that fear is like be able to hear me out and why I have this fear? And even in that hearing me out, then give me some degree of evidence or conversation that can comfort me to then be able to say, okay, maybe my fear is unfounded, right? But the fact that we can't even have that conversation, in my opinion, is probably the reason why we're not getting to the truth.
I think I'm very mixed on debate because I think debate isn't always the best avenue to arrive in truth. Because one, debate hinges on both people being knowledgeable in order to reach a good truth. If 2 people are walking in with misconception and misinformation, you won't go the right way. And secondly, this is my other opinion, I don't always think the truth is in the middle. I think a lot of times the truth's just one thing. And us trying to minimize or reach in the middle dilutes the truth. I think what the issue is, a lot of times people are lazy for the truth. I think we live in an age where because things are so accessible in front of us, we put the burdens for experiences and things we don't go to. We put the burden on the person going through it to have the exact and perfectly. No, you do it. you go figure it out. Right. Instead of making you the king of Black people and you have to speak towards and for all Black people.
Well, thank you. King of the Blacks.
Thank you very much. Y'all touched on something very interesting right here, because the one consensus I think that we're getting to is that there are a number of different definitions and consensus when it comes to social justice. Even you touched on how our church looks at social justice. So then the question comes in as to what should the role of the church be? A church that has such a diverse body a church that is in so many different states, countries, represents all types of different people. What is the role they should have in social justice? And this is coming from, because we're all Black Adventists here. There was a time period when you were young when you took real pride. You're like, yeah, they were abolitionists. It's like, no, we were never on that. Not every denomination can say that. But you might have been like second, third, or fourth grade. You're like, no, we was never doing that. So what is the role the church should have in present day?
I'm sorry. We'll fix it in post. But this particular topic, for me, and a lot of other Black Seventh-day Adventists, is a very touchy one because of the most recent, racial issue that happened and how the world was basically.
I couldn't even tell you what the most recent one is. Can you please?
I believe.
What are you touching on?
It's not the most recent, but it was the most popular.
Just talk what you're talking about. What you talking about?
Name again. George Floyd.
Okay, got you.
Okay. The most popular. It wasn't the most recent because they gonna happen, but it was one of the things that highlighted the church and how they react to these types of situations, and the way that our counterparts, the Caucasian churches, reacted was horrendous, offensive. It said that we do not feel like we need to protect you at all, and that we have no empathy or sympathy for you at all. I was in conversations with other Seventh-day Adventists saying that, big groups of other Seventh-day Adventists, very big groups, panels, saying that they don't even understand how to react to what's happened. And if they should protest or if they should stay quiet. Of course, what they did ultimately was stay quiet. My reaction was, in the Bible, it tells you to help the persecuted, and basically the one who's in lesser power if they're being abused. But they said they didn't understand how to react, and a lot of those things came from their parents. Some of our elder white Seventh-day Adventists still had some racist beliefs in them and passed those down. But this is a whole subject of people not caring enough about minorities, Blacks, Hispanics, etc. Not caring about their feelings, even though they're in the same church as them.
I guess my question to that, assuming, in good faith, assuming that, a lot of the majority Adventists in Western society aren't necessarily, coming from a place of, racism and things like that. Why do you think that our church as a whole is silent on social justice issues that actually effectively, affect our members and just people in society, not just our members, because it's not just about us, and we understand that and we respect that, right? Why are we as a church so silent? Do you think it's because of, us holding this eschatological worldview? And by that, I know that's a big word. It just means, the understanding of last day events and the fact that we understand that Jesus is coming soon. And there are things that are going to happen, wars, rumors of wars, men being lovers of themselves, things like that, right? And so we expect certain things to happen. Or is it that, we are afraid of potential persecution that may take place if we became outspoken on certain issues that are affecting us as a society? Or do you guys think it's something else that causes us as a church as a whole to be so silent on certain issues?
Well, that was the point I was asking, the question I was asking earlier. I'm not sure, I don't know, right? So for example, is the church silent on what's happening with Israel right now? Or have they made a comment on Israel? Does anybody know?
Officially,
No
no.
official one? How about
Officially,
what, they're pretty silent. How about the stuff that happened with Palestine?
Still
prior
pause.
to that?
Silent.
The silent.
Silent.
Silence-ish?
It's silent.
Okay.
Some ministers.
But that's different.
Yeah, but there's no official church stand.
The church, yeah, official statement, church official statements and things like that.
This is why it's not. This is why it's not different, because on these media platforms, they will tell you.
5 minutes. Bro.
Oh, yeah. On these media platforms, they will tell you what you can and can't speak about. Even conferences will tell preachers what they would not like them to speak about in sermons. Now, whether the preacher does it is up to them in terms of conference-wide. But on channels, you have to abide by those guidelines.
I think to answer Jay-Ann's question, why I don't think the church is speaking on this, I have two answers. One, first answer I have is, I don't know how to describe it, but I'm not going to lie to you. If I was white, racism sounds crazy. It sounds kind of made up. You mean to tell me you have a degree, you worked hard, they just didn't hire you because you're black? That's it? Nothing else? You have a good job. You have a good degree. You graduate from Harvard. You sure it's not you? So I think the premise of that there's systematic racism is a very, especially when you live in certain communities and privilege, or overt, is really hard to understand. And secondly, for those who still have who's still into it, some of them just don't believe or see it as a gray area where they see it as, yeah, sure that. Like, for example, George Floyd. There's a lot of people who will say there's a lot of people Adventists will agree that was bad, but that's not a systematic issue. That's one bad cop doing a bad thing. You want us to now speak out and just revamp our entire organization because of some few bad cops? Do we do that every time when there's a bad firefighter? Do we do that when there's a bad pastor? Should we just abolish a pastor when there's one bad pastor? For them, it's like these are just individual actors, and as long as we get rid of the individual actors, the problem is solved, as opposed to this is an innate trait of the system.
I definitely believe that the church, that the church is like that. Like especially if the members themselves are not dealing with the issue directly or actively, they're gonna be like, you know what? It's just that one person, that one place. Do we even go to that state? Like that's how they're gonna view it, right? They're gonna say, oh, that's just the South, or oh, that's just the Midwest. You know, we don't really have to deal with it over here. Yeah, right. You're right. And they sometimes then blame the victim instead of seeing it as the entire problem. Whereas even me personally, I'm not a criminal. I don't really do much. I've had my white counterparts, like older than me and influential people, ask me, so how did you get where you are right now? And I'm like, what do you mean? I went to school. What type of school? Right. They asked me, even from my university, how did you get in? I'm like, what do you mean? Exactly. You're so well spoken. And I'm like, well, we went to school too, you know? So it's if they're not living the experience, they don't understand.
So just briefly, my dissertation is sort of looking at black churches a little bit. I'm looking at restorative justice, but I'm focusing specifically on black churches. And part of the reason I'm doing that is, and I'm talking about historically black denominations, so like AME, Z, COGIC, Church of God in Christ, whatever the acronym is. And those churches are doing so much work as it relates to social justice. I was just on a Zoom call not too long ago where there were 200 church leaders in New Jersey that were on a Zoom call talking about how to mobilize their churches to like get out to vote, to do like souls to the polls and like inform people about the different policies and like what does Project 2025 mean and what's involved and all of these things, right? And I'm like sort of knee deep into that world of like becoming aware of what other churches are doing, and then I look at my own church and I am disappointed, to say the least. I think that the history of Adventism, of being strong advocates against slavery, is there, right? So we have that.
You said that was the easy one.
Right. But we have that like historic backing, right? Like strong shoulders to stand on. And then we have been entirely silent, right? Or we've gone back in some ways where we've become more conservative and I'm not saying conservative is like the Conservative Party, but in our values, we don't seem to be outraged that human dignity is being violated and the image of God is being violated in people. I think the silence that I see in the Adventist church is disappointing, and I think that we'll have to answer for that. I mean, I don't know how we'll answer. And I think that we love to talk about how we are the church with the truth and the good news. But I think this is one of those times where we need to humble ourselves and look around and see that other churches are doing so much better than we are, and that we have so much to learn.
And sorry, guys. This is the type of conversation. That's why Sabbath lunch is so fun.
That's why we be at church.
That's why we be at church till 7 p.m. Because we get to talk like that. Yeah. And Rashika, thank you, because you kind of started us off with the conversation and you got to close us. And that was a great close. Yeah. And it's not that this conversation is over. We're probably going to turn the cameras off and continue. Yeah. But we hope that this is a conversation you can continue at home, at your own Sabbath lunch and with your own people. Because here we want to open the door to talk about it. We know we're not going to solve all the world's problems right now, but we can at least start the conversation to start that process. So thank y'all. We appreciate you. Thanks for listening. Tap into the next episode. Sabbath lunch, man. Go home.